So you might not hear it, but you are all muted for the moment, and we are accepting people as we just launched the session. So I'm just going to make a very short introduction. Tonight from the Paris WiMLDS team, we have Marie Sacksick, who is a senior data scientist at Cyber Angel, sorry. We have,
Hi, everyone.
do you want to introduce yourself, Marie?
Maybe you can just do the roundtable and yeah, sure, after that.
Good. Then we have Natalie Cherneska, who's from Teralab. Then you have myself, Caroline Chavier. So I'm a tech recruiter and I launched my own company this year. And I know many of you also would have liked to be interacting with Chloe, Agatha, and Code tonight. But unfortunately, Chloe is sick and she's not able to sustain a conversation with you. So you will just have the three of us. We also wanted to take this opportunity to inform you that the brown lunch bag session or the BBL sessions are going to be back in December. It used to be organized by Betty Moreschini, and she's handing her job to two people. So one of them is here tonight. Her name is Chloé Laurent, and she's going to be partnering with Victoire Louis. So she might not be here, but anyway, on the 17th of December, they're going to launch a new BBL session and reading a machine learning paper with you. That being said, Marie, can you introduce yourself? And then the point is that you can ask any question to us about any topic. So we're going to explain to you what you can question us about.
Sure. So as Caroline said, I'm Marie. I'm working as a senior data scientist at Cyber Angel. It's a cybersecurity company which is aiming at detecting data leaks for its clients. And in this job, what I'm doing is both the technical part, like every other data scientist in the team, and I am also helping to manage a project. And I'm talking with the product team to be sure we in line with the goal of the projects. Before that, I started a PhD, unfortunately that I didn't complete, but maybe if you have questions about PhDs, maybe I can still help you about that.
Natalie? Wait, you're muted, and I gave everyone the possibility to unmute yourself. So let me know if you can't do it, Natalie. I'm going to try. Natalie, you're here.
Unmute, thank you.
You are unmuted.
Okay, thanks a lot. So I'm Natalie Chernetska, and today I'm working as a head of business development at Teralab. Teralab is a data sharing platform. So my job is to bring new clients, companies, but also we work a lot on European projects, so bringing new European projects. And also I manage a number of European projects for Teralab. Two of them are very big, perhaps you have heard about it, AI for EU and EU hubs for data. We have lots of partners in Germany and in Spain and in Italy. So it's a very international job. So obviously I'm happy to talk about business development, but perhaps most interesting it would be is about career change, because I have a PhD, but PhD in ancient Greek. So I had an academic background doing research on Greek manuscripts, like in the Vatican Library in Ambrosiana, and had a series of academic positions. And then I decided to change careers, and here I am in data science. So any of you interested in sort of unusual background, how you break in if you are unusual in any way, happy to talk about it.
Thank you, Natalie. For people who don't know me, my name is Caroline. I have been hiring engineers, data scientists, machine learning researchers for the last 8 years. So you can ask me any question regarding preparing an interview, how to build an application strategy, how you can network. And I'm very sensitive to diversity issue. So if you feel like sharing with us a question related to discrimination at work or a tough situation you faced, please feel free. This is the right setting. And if you do not feel comfortable voicing your question, you can send in a private mode the question directly at me or Marie or Natalie. So we will voice it on your behalf. That being said, usually everyone is kept muted for our online meetups, but this one is going to be an exception. So no matter if you are an introvert or an extrovert, we're super nice and open-minded. So if you prefer to write the question, feel free. And if you are confident enough to voice your question right now, please go ahead. You can unmute yourself. And yes, Morgan is confirming that we do not bite. Okay, so we have one question already. I'm going to say it out loud and we'll see who will take it. What are your advice to move from technical occupation to business ones? For instance, business management, finance, as what counts most in tech companies are the knowledge of the latest technology, not accumulated experience or personal networks. I think, Natalie, you can take this one, and just in case, we will complete. Yeah, wait. Natalie.
Okay, so if I correctly understand, you have a technical background and you want to move to the business side. I think the world is your oyster. There are plenty of people who want the people of technical background to work on the business side, because I think, as far as I understand, there is really a real gap. We have a lot of people who are very competent technically, and then we have a lot of people who are quite competent on the business side or communication, marketing, but have very, very limited technical background. So if you can bridge this gap, you are really going to have no problem moving into whatever role you want. So I think the best thing is really start with you. I mean, you said business, but business is very large, right? You can work in finance department, you can work on project management, you can work on bringing clients, you can work on marketing. You really need to identify what you want to do with respect to your personality, perhaps, and the type of job, things you enjoy and not enjoy. So this is one thing. And with respect to looking for job, for anyone who wants to move from one field to another, one type of occupation to another, I would say personal network is a paramount. I don't think you're going to achieve anything really if you just start applying for random jobs. It's not going to work for you. So just build your network either within a company where you're already working, to go to talk to people in another department and see how you can move it. And I have some friends who did it, moving from one department to another, from one role to another, or identify companies that you are interested in and start building networks there. So that's my sort of 2 cents.
So the initial question was, how can you transition from a technical background to a more business-oriented position? I agree with everything that Natalie mentioned, but I would encourage the person who asked the question to, list the people you know and explore your actual networks. You can start by having a look at your LinkedIn. Sometimes it can be also Facebook. I know that researchers, sometimes they are connected via Facebook. So start exploring what you have, and then it will give you ideas. Feel free to write to people, also to ask questions. A little bit in the way that product managers are going to, build a strategy after having asked many questions to users, you can, before applying, try to explore what you could try to aim. So that would be my advice, because what we are not always aware is that we all have a significant network and that we do not use it enough. Okay. Usually the floor is open, so if you want to speak, feel free. If you have any joke, yes, you can say it to everybody. Good. Does anyone have a question? Okay, there is one question. How to find a PhD CIFRE in machine learning? I found few offers online. Marie, maybe?
Sure. Yes, I guess if you say this, it means that you've looked into the INFT website already. And indeed, not so many societies are publishing their offer there. So I would advise you to if you have an idea of the topic, you can yourself go to labs and companies and state your idea. And you have to know that a PhD CIFRE is very, it has a lot of subventions from the state. So it's a great opportunity for companies. It's almost free for them. Of course, if you come, you're motivated, you have a topic, they should accept. It's very, very likely. And maybe you can go also to have a look for the labs themselves. They have contact with companies, so they can help you to find it. So maybe in your school or university there are labs related, and you can ask your professors about it.
So I'm going to add to what Marie said. Have a look at the labs. Yes, definitely. Have a look at the WiMLDS website. There is a job board, and most of the time there are PhD offers there. About CIFRE precisely, I would encourage you to have a look at the website, which is called France is AI. Every year there is a national conference about AI, and you have plenty of companies who are supporting the event or talking there. I'm not going to name anyone because I don't want to be like bribed, but it can also give you ideas of who are the people and which are the companies which are supporting financially Thèse CIFRE. And then you have also plenty of information on Twitter. For instance, I can think about Laure Soulier, who's from the Lipsys lab. They frequently share jobs and Thèse CIFRE. You can have a look at Orange with Stéphane Sénécal, who's one of our members. You can have a look at, Facebook, Google, the big ones. Then I would like you to be aware of one point, is that financially speaking, companies like Thèse CIFRE because it's a way to optimize their finances. Why am I saying that? Is that a lot of Thèse CIFRE are stopped on the way because you do not have a mentor in the company. You still have a teacher from the academic sphere, but you have no one inside. So if you select a company, please make sure they do a sustainable effort to support academic research. That's it.
100% agree on this one.
There is another question. Continuing the theme of networking, how do you build your network if you typically work in a small team, like 5 people, and you are an introvert? How do you do that? How do you network when you are an introvert and having a small team? C'est bizarre. Okay, Natalie.
So, right, so I hope I'll stay unmuted because it's really strange. So I think we are many of us are introverts here because, you know, people who normally like doing academic research, who like doing engineering, who like doing data science. I mean, it's normal we are introverted. So that's kind of an advantage about being for networking, because introverts normally are very good at listening, and listening is a key element for networking. So if you are from a small company, as I said, what Caroline mentioned, you all have all kind of other networks. Like this meetup is one network, and we know of people who, you know, got all kind of opportunities, job opportunities, internships, visibilities through this meetup. So there are definitely other groups. So this is one way. Probably your alumni from school, but could be also useful. I don't know, all kind of people from other teams. Your team might be small, but you know, team next door might be bigger. So that's sort of one thing. On a sort of, I wrote an article about networking, and I like to say that networking is not about knowing Xavier Niel, it's like a French billionaire, but about knowing enough good people who know you and appreciate you. So you should really not think about networking, but rather build meaningful relationship with those 5 people whom you appreciate. I think it's actually will be much more it would be better investment of your time. And so this article you can find, we shared it recently on LinkedIn, and at the end there are some further resources specifically for introverts. There is, perhaps you know, there is a woman called Susan Cain who gave a very good TED talk about being introverts, and she wrote a book called Quiet Revolution, also about introverts, and she wrote about several articles about for introverts. And I think one of the very useful tips she said is about events. When you go to an event, give yourself one task, one meaningful connection. You know, there is this idea that you go to events, you drink, and you become brothers with everyone. So for introverts, it doesn't work. But if you have one meaningful connection, I think you're fine, and then you can go home and enjoy yourself and read a book, right? So don't sort of overstretch yourself. And so check further resources.
Yeah, so people have been writing to us to say they were having a hard time being unmuted. If you want to be able to speak, please write to Marie, Natalie, or myself, and we'll unmute you if that's the way. Someone asked a very practical question: how can I join the WiMLDS Paris Slack account? So I'm going to give you 2 answers. If you want to join the global WiMLDS account on Slack, you write to slack at wimlds.org. I'm going to write it in the chat. And for Paris, it's paris at wimlds.org. So there are 2 different Slack groups. We are going to share the address, and then you will be invited to join. About the question, there was a reaction that from someone who describes herself or himself as an introvert. And the person said, one of the techniques I'm using is that I'm usually joining a small group of people during an event in order to be more at ease to connect. So I think it's a great approach. It's quite efficient. And please write if you don't want to speak, if you don't want to meet people in the real life. You have LinkedIn, you have Twitter, you have email addresses of machine learning professors. So please go ahead, because introverts are real in academia and in machine learning. Other question. This one is quite interesting. How to balance learning time between technical tools and theoretical tools to be a good data scientist. Marie.
Yes, I think this one could be for me, but it's an interesting question. I would tend to say that in my point of view, maybe it's because it's what I like most, but I would tend to work the most on theoretical aspects of machine learning, because the technical aspects, it will just come as you go, and every team has its own set of tools they're using. So you will just learn how it's by just copy pasting what they're doing, and little by little you will say, oh, I'm missing that tiny little thing, and you're looking for it on the internet, as everyone do is in in development, and we learn that part which is really useful, and you will apply straight away. So at least that's how I'm managing my learning time. Actually, it's only about the theoretical aspect, and then when I need a technical tool, I'm using what we are already using in my team, and I'm completing on the small step we are not great about. But maybe if you, well, maybe you, what are you doing, Emna, and do you think it might be it also depends, I guess, on how you practice machine learning. If you're data engineer, maybe it won't be exactly the same. I don't know.
So another question. Oh, someone is building a company in the data/climate sector tonight and is looking for a co-founder with a machine learning expertise. So maybe what I'm going to do is that, Corinne, if you're okay with that, I'm going to open the floor to you, and maybe you can introduce your project to everybody. And if someone is eager to join or to ask more questions, I'm asking you to be able to speak.
Hello, thanks for having me. It's my first time in this group, so I'm a bit shy. Plus it's in English, so I thought it was a French team. So anyway, so I'm building a company called Carbometrix. We are two co-founders, but we have general background in terms of expertise. I'm an engineer, but I've never really practiced data. And what we want to do, we are both very engaged in climate issues. And we feel that more transparency is needed on emission of companies for companies to really act. So what we want to build is a global mapping of company GHG emissions, so greenhouse gas emissions, using AI in order to use all the data that's available worldwide. There's a lot of data now, more and more. So we are looking for a co-founder that could be our chief scientific officer on this journey. So I'm calling on you. You have a lot of people, I'm sure, have the expertise. Maybe are not into entrepreneurship, but I'm happy to discuss and with anybody that is interested. So I don't know. I suggested to put it in Slack. Maybe I can give my email address, so people can reach out if they feel they are interested.
Yeah, Corinne, we are always happy to share job offers. There's many ways. So there is a global job board for WiMLDS, but I guess you are looking for someone who is Paris-based in order to be able to work with you, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what we can do is to share it on Slack and Twitter and LinkedIn. When there is such an interesting topic, we are always eager to do so. We are an NGO, so we want to help people. So feel free to reach out. We just shared the email address of the team in Paris, paris@wimlds.org. Okay. Send, just a few lines. We will not share your contact details on Twitter, but we can put you in touch.
Okay. Thank you.
And yes, we only speak English in order for people who are not French speakers to be able to interact and join our conversations.
Okay. Thank you very much.
There is a good question, which is, do you have references of resources, websites, courses to start learning about machine learning? Marie, Natalie, or anyone who wants to speak? Yes.
Yes, what I like is there is a Twitter account related to a website which is called Machine Learning Mastery. And that person shares quite regularly articles about actually quite anything. And it's I think it's might be difficult to create content because you have to read everything to be able to have a critical thought on this while you are learning about it. So it might be difficult. So newsletter are great for this because it's already created and the content is already evaluated for you. So I would be looking for newsletters.
On my side, I would advise the content created by WiML, so TWML. They share lots of content via podcast, YouTube videos. And what I like about them is that they are careful about representing diversity and people from all over the world. So it's in English. In addition, Twitter is an amazing opportunity to curate content because you can follow PhD students, you can follow experts. For instance, you can have a look at Chloe, her feed is amazing. You can have a look at the AI Institute in New York with Kate Crawford, who I think just quitted and promoted Meredith Whittaker, but institutions like that. And you can also check some of the meetups already on events because they share lots of resources when there is a workshop. And Slack can be also an amazing, when it's an active group. For instance, if you go in WiMLDS, there's tons of resources, and it's not just theoretical, it's also about how to manage your career and how to manage interviews. So here are a great set of different resources. Natalie, do you have any other idea?
So Chloe Agata-Zinkot has a book about machine learning, so you can also start reading it. But I think it definitely depends where you are now and what you want to achieve. You want to read about machine learning, you want to perfection your skills, you want to advance, it's a new field for you. But I think what Marie said, so you sort of start by following Marie on Twitter, and then you see whom she follows, and then you will find out a couple of useful resources. I think there is no one size fits all. Some of these things will appeal to you more than the others, but start sort of by following some real people who are experts, and then probably you can find your way in this jungle.
There was another question about a sexist experience, so I'm going to read it, but I want to be extra careful not to misunderstand anything for everybody to be able to... okay, let me... I cannot find it. Okay. If you encounter a really sexist situation at work, but your bosses aren't making any efforts to acknowledge it and even participate about the situation you're suffering from, how can you do something? And the person is explaining, obviously, I have to, no surprise, it's a woman. I was forced to quit, but I would have loved to really convince my bosses and confront them to numbers or proofs, or even have the option to contact somebody who could have helped? If it's a too difficult or too long question, don't answer it now, and we'll talk about it later. I think it's important we talk about it because we are a women organization, but we are open to anyone. If you come to our physical meetups, you already saw that there are non-binary people, there are men, and there are women. And we want to change the representation of machine learning. It's important to feel you're part of it and you don't have to justify yourself. It's not a man's expertise. Then, to answer this question, I come from an HR background. So obviously, the answer is going to be very different according to the size of the organization you're working in. Let me explain myself. If you're working in a 100 plus company, you will have mandatorily an HR person. Usually, HR is the first team you should address your concerns and share your issues with. Otherwise, your management should always be trained to handle this kind of situation, to get your feedback, and then to come with the right process or the right follow-ups to you. In startups, it's much more difficult because there is kind of a proximity, a promiscuity with people, so you do not dare sharing it because the first natural attitude is going to you're going to think, oh no, I'm just being hallucinating, I'm just making a fool of what I've just heard. No, when you think someone has been rude to you or made you feel illegitimate about your work, this is the starting point of underlying a bad situation. So HR, management, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to be optimistic. Sometimes, because women are underrepresented and not numerous enough, you are going to be perceived as the problem because it's easier to fix one woman, one person, instead of 12 people, 12 men. So that being said, I would encourage you to do what you just did, to quit when it's too unbearable, because it's hard to fight for everything. And sexism is real in tech. So that's all I can say. Does anyone want to share something else?
I would like to add that it's not always easy to react if you witness it, even if you are not the person targeted, but you belong to the group targeted. It's not easy to say, well, maybe it's not normal what you're saying right now. Could you explain? And you have to prepare yourself to that kind of situation. Because if you do not, when the situation comes, you're just too astonished. Well, is that even possible? I wouldn't have said. Aside from that, I thought that person was nice. I wouldn't have expected it. So you can be taken aback, and it might be very difficult to act on the spot.
Just for you to know, this is a tricky topic to talk about because as an NGO, we already had feedback from several women who were being disrespected at work. And for us, it's very hard to hear. And we didn't mention also the option when you feel it went too far, when it's not just words. And, even to me, like words are already the limit. But words go to talk to a lawyer, because if it's a discrimination or homophobic, sexist behavior, it should not be acceptable and it should be faced. So it's easy to say because sometimes when you are on your own, you don't have the strength to do all of that. So if Natalie, Marie, Chloe, and myself can help you in any way, like connecting you with other companies or just having a phone conversation with you. This is what we are here for. Moving on to another question. There was another one about how to keep updated of recent machine learning articles. Do you have good newsletter, Medium, archive towards data science and conference websites? Sorry, but we already talked about it. And you can also follow us on Twitter. For instance, Marie, every Wednesday, she shares a machine learning paper. We do the same on Friday at WiMLDS Paris. And we will write more content if you feel like it next week on Twitter, because we got the point. It's important for many of you.
Plus, while Caroline is looking, I would say that if you're already looking through Medium archives towards data science and conference website, well, I think you're already learning a lot and reading a lot.
So, found 2 questions. Get ready, ladies and everyone. What advice would you give to a junior data scientist who wants to enrich his technical background? Coursera, Kaggle, towards data science, or other support? And the second question is really cute. What are the criteria for joining Paris WiMLDS? Natalie?
I think for joining Paris WiMLDS, just you need, there are 2 things. First of all, you need to follow us on Meetups. This is kind of how you join. Secondly, you would want to join. And then we have a rule of conduct, we don't like people disrespecting each other. So I think sort of there are certain basic rules of politeness and good conduct that one needs to adhere to. And we welcome all people who are either practicing data science or are interested or curious about it or want to move about it. We are really inclusive community. And I think about the first question we already said, you can try whatever resources there are and try what suits your style, your time frame, your constraints. There's so many resources right now. I think curation is the key. And as I said, you start following a couple of people on Twitter and you realize what is best. And there are so many courses, even if you take just Coursera, there are so many courses on machine learning and you can try some of them and you hate one teacher and you like another one. So, there's this expression, learning by doing. We can give you plenty of advice, but I think it's up to you to try and see what suits you best.
There is another question, which is both a testimony and then there is a question. Thank you very much for the meeting. I am a machine learning engineer at Dailymotion, and the more I get experience, the more I think it is super important to enhance diversity within a company and find feminine role models. I would be very happy to actively get part of WiMLDS, share and learn with all of you, being a speaker in a WiMLDS and or hosting an event. So that's the testimony. I'm not done with the question, but we are going to share again our email address. I don't want to share your name, but please write to us, the team, because I can tell you, we all want to start again real life meetups. We don't know when we will be able to, but if we can, we will invite you. And if we have to keep on doing things online, we will reach out to you also. And the question was, have you ever encountered a situation where you were very emotional at work? I have to say that being in a masculine environment, I had sometimes a lot of struggle dealing with it. Do you have any advice? If there is anyone from the crowd who wants to answer this, please write to me. Natalie?
So I can start, and then perhaps you also can share some experience. So I work in extremely in very male environment. So it's very frequent for me to chair the meeting, and there will be guys and the only woman. It's very frequent we need to work on a project. On a committee, I'm the only woman for a joke. I'm now on a committee. There are more men named Philippe than there are women. So that's kind of the environment. And so, so there are two parts of it, or even three parts of it. So there is a part of it that we are all emotional, and but there are a certain amount of, and we need to learn how to use our emotions. So emotions per se are not bad or good, but we need to learn how to use it. And definitely there are different resources. And again, probably we can share it in a more private way. If emotions are different, some people are prone to anger, some people are prone to tears, some people are, I don't know, collapse. So it's also, I mean, emotions, it's a big issue. So you need to identify and then learn to manage. Then perhaps there is this aspect that you are going to be labeled as emotional because you are working in a male environment. So I think in this case, you can probably just ignore it or joke about it or whatever. If it's just a colleague with whom you normally have normal relationship, you can tell them that, and you are mansplaining again, or you can turn always a joke the other way around. If it's something which is a systemic sexism, perhaps we already talked about it. This is a more difficult situation, right? So, and then probably particularly in this day and age where we all are really glued to our screens, which, has a certain impact on our emotions, on our well-being. We don't have as much contact with real people. You probably need to learn how to relax, like, whether it could be walking, swimming, cold showers, whatever. But I mean, there are certain physical exercise that you can do just to keep your emotions at bay. So, right. So first of all, identify your emotions and deal with them, certain perhaps physical exercises, and then distinguish between your emotions and being labeled as emotional, right?
On this, I would like to mention allies, because I know a lot of teams in tech or in academia, you are just like one person from an underrepresented group. So it can be from your skin color, cultural difference, or your gender. And, using hidden signals, for instance, sharing an article about how introverts work in a professional setting, sharing content about vulnerability. It's a real topic right now in HR, in management, because people who used to manage with, just like be exemplary, like let's kick ass and performance only arguments, it's not working anymore, and people are looking for something else. So if you do not feel comfortable sharing this kind of articles because you are the only woman and you don't want to be the one pointing it, I would, mention it during a lunch or informal conversation on Slack, and ask another male colleague to share it, or like find a way to make the discussion about this at work. Anyway, that would be my trick.
Yeah, I think this fact of looking for allies, it works very well. I mean, whether allies are man or woman, or whether it's one issue or another, there is this concept of meeting before the meeting. Like, you might be emotional because you have a big meeting, talk to people with whom you have a good relationship, who support you, and let them and ask them explicitly to support your viewpoint. Or, it sounds odd, but it's actually not. It's practice in business all the time, sort of by people who they agree on quite a lot of issues beforehand and support each other in a very tactical way. So learn it as well. If you know that you're going to face some situation, ask people to support. I do it all the time. We need to discuss something. I have a view. I will discuss with people sort of who are going to support this view, and then we can advance sort of as a team, because quite often you can achieve a lot of things as a team, and as only woman, perhaps not necessarily. So find allies and talk to them before.
There is one. There are two questions. One I think is going to be for Mary, and I have ideas also. what mistakes do people commonly make when they prepare to data science / machine learning interviews and at the interviews themselves? I don't understand this part, but what are the common mistakes for data science and machine learning interviews?
I think you will have much better answers, and I only have one point. There is one thing I really hate when it's about when you have a technical test and the person is presenting, well, I've been using these and these fancy algorithms, and you say, well, why did you choose this one? Why did you think it was interesting for your problem? How is it working behind? And says, well, I don't know. It's just the fancy one and the one everyone is using on Kaggle. Say, well, from my point of view, it's not how it works in data science. And this really get me upset. This is my answer.
So we all discovered that Marie does not like XGBoost. Common mistakes are not going to be purely technical. Usually, if you're working on a certain kind of algorithms and find out certain results, try to point out synergies or similarities with the issues that the company you are interviewing with is facing. You know, build a bridge between your knowledge and their explanation, their expectations. Often candidates, they expect to just say out loud what they know and that's it. So no, that's not the way interviews work. Also, it's similar to what Mary expressed. Be able to explain your decisions. Why did you choose these algorithms? If it was not your choice, why so? If it had been your choice, what would you have chosen? So these are the typical mistakes. And one that can be easily corrected relies on the candidate's ability to be up to date. Have a look at what's new, at what's failing, because people are looking for minds that are going to be reading scientific papers, able to read articles and to share new ideas with the company. So how do you keep yourself updated is instrumental. And plus, for a little bit less technical people, if you do not believe you're good at coding, do not do technical interviews without having trained yourself prior to the interviews. These are the pieces of advice. Natalie, do you have something else?
So it obviously depends also on the company you and on the role you are looking. If your role is very applicable, then definitely you are not there to be like a whiz kid, you're there to solve real problems. The more you're able to demonstrate that you can not only manipulate the tools, but also solve the problems, the better it will go. On the other hand, if you're applying for, I don't know, for some more research position where you really, what is counts is your ability to think creatively and invent new solutions, then it's a different approach. So really think in the context, right?
So we have Elena. She had one question, and there was one also I will voice later. Elena, the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot. Nice to meet you all. Maybe let me put the video as well so you can see me if you can. Not sure. Like I don't see myself actually. Can you?
No.
No, right? Yeah, not sure. Anyway, that's fine. So nice to meet you all. I'm Elena, based in Milan, invited by my friend Claudia. She's also on the call. She's responsible for women in machine learning in Milan. And so my question is more related to hiring processes and diversity. So I work in tech since I started my career over 10 years ago. And a challenge we have as tech companies, and specifically now in fintech, since I work for Revolut, I'm responsible for the south of Europe at Revolut. So probably some of you guys know about the product. And so yes, and so as you can imagine, we are constantly hiring, growing a lot, doing a lot of interviews, etc. But we not only at Revolut, again, like generally speaking across those companies, the challenge are two mainly. So first, to really attract diverse talents, right? Because if you think about a fintech company or a mobility company like Uber, I don't know, like you think, okay, finance and technology, this is for a man. Like usually, the most of applicants are white men of 30s, right, of 30 years old, right? So the challenge is first of all to attract women, to attract diverse talents, and then the second thing is a suggestion, if you have, about how to make a candidate understand that this environment, this company, is actually able to embrace her needs, right? And he can or she can find in the company the right place to grow, the right place to be appreciated, depending on the characteristic and peculiarity of the person, right? So I think these two challenges I face on my daily basis. So thanks a lot. Thank you.
Please feel free to go ahead, girls, but I feel asked. We could spend hours in order to answer to you, Elena, but first,
I know. I imagine.
There is a work to be done in collaboration with the recruitment team, the HR team at Revolut. You know, I try to have a look at your website, but I cannot. But the way the job descriptions are written, it's massively important to be able to attract underrepresented people and candidates and to retain them on the longer run. So the nature of the job descriptions, then the pictures or the designs used on the career page. Most of the time, it's the expression of unconscious bias. You see only faces of men. People are not making any mistake because 90% of the time their team is male. So trying to balance better the representation of the teams inside Revolut can be an option. Then you have the training of the recruitment team. How do they ask questions during the phone screen? What do they introduce about the company? And then how interviewers are trained. Who are meeting the candidates? For instance, if I am a female engineer, will Revolut make sure that I will meet during my recruitment process a peer, a woman? And then you ask another question, which was about retention and career growth. This is another topic. I don't know if we have the time, but I would be very happy. Maybe if you want me to spend more time with you, feel free to send your email address, and I would spend time with you. And then you can also advise Revolut to get in touch with communities such as WiMLDS, Pi Ladies, 15 Tech, which is a French solution that is internationally spread. But if you do so, make sure that diversity is cared for at your company, okay? Because nothing is more annoying than being from the diversity and not being taken seriously inside. Natalie, Marie, do you have any?
Thank you.
Yeah, perhaps I'll say something. First of all, I'm very happy that you are here. We had joint meetup with Claudia back in spring, and we have very fond memories of that event. And thank you for being here. And I think something, Elena, you said very well, that how do you persuade people that issued from diversity, and any type of diversity, right, with the women, but also accessibility, sort of diversity, foreigners, older people, Black people, whatever, the different types of diversity. And I think what is important is make them meet people who are like them. if you're interviewing a woman who sort of hesitates, perhaps meeting other women engineers would be useful. Or if you're interviewing, someone from a different country, and meeting someone else would be useful. I think sort of to showing them that they're not going to be the first person, like the first token person. I think not everyone can take it, right? Some people are happy to be the first person, but majority of us would prefer to have already someone who resembles us.
There was another question about communities. I'm going to find it. And there was also another comment about emotional management. We will get back to it. And then we'll stop like around 8:15 maybe. Recently, I joined the Debug 2020 Summit organized by Lesbians Who Tech Analyze, based in the USA. It was very empowering and motivating. Is there a way to organize such an online summit locally?
Well, I think, Caroline, you are the best person to answer this one because you founded, this meetup, actually.
Yep. I'm going to be blunt. Since I joined WiMLDS back in 2017, it was my dream to organize a global summit online. And it never happened because, we are all volunteers, no matter where we are in the world. We do that aside from our job. And WiMLDS is globally spread. And doesn't have the financial ability to be hosting something similar as Lesbians Who Tech Analyze. This organization is absolutely massive. I love their program. It's super dynamic, it's engaging, and it's not just once a year, it's every quarter you have something. My advice would be have a look at other similar communities, such as Grace Hopper, the Women in Tech Conference. Then you have the R community is moving its global conference online this year, and the R ladies community is quite vivid and super friendly. That's all I can think right now. But oh yeah, you have also Out in Tech. If you are sensitive to LGBTQA plus topics, Out in Tech, it's a superb Slack group, and it's a very good community. Another comment was...
I just want to say, I'm not sure I understood your question. You wanted to organize a local organization of lesbian who tech yourself, or you want to, you were talking about sort of global summit for WiMLDS. I think for WiMLDS, we actually, I think since the beginning of the pandemics, we don't organize global summits, but we had several online events with fellow chapters. I think Milan was one, but we also had Berlin and Brussels, and probably more to come. And with respect to your question, if you want to organize a local event, Lesbians Who Tech, just go ahead and start organizing it. Find a community of like-minded individuals locally whenever you are. Reach out to the global organizers, and probably it can be done.
You're absolutely right, Natalie. Thank you for everything you said, because I forgot to say it. And for Lesbians Who Tech, there was a Paris chapter, but how can I say that nicely? It's a very demanding and strict organization, and so the founder stopped it. So the person who wrote the question, feel free to write to me, and I'm going to give you the name of the founder, and I will put you in touch with her. And if you want to restart the Lesbians Who Tech chapter, please, let's do that. And someone is also mentioning Pi Data Global. So think about that. There was something else about emotional. About being emotional and masculine environment, just another experience. Yes, I was very, very emotional at least once because lots of pressure to perform and a lot of personal things at the same time. What to do with it? I just ask for more time to do my task and be given a room to breathe, not being pulled into meetings and corrections and critiques all the time. Love it. And maybe for a short leave for a few days or just replan when and what you have to deliver later. Awesome. Okay.
I think we had some funny question at the beginning, how old until which age you can be data scientist or something. And I feel that I have to take it because I think I'm older than most. So I think you can be data scientist until you die, really. So it depends on that. But so if your question, I think there are several aspects to this question, right? First of all, is there any age discrimination in tech? Yes, and it starts at 34. So just I think we all are older, most of us are, or many of us are. So just live with it and look for companies for which there are no issues. You know, some companies are going to discriminate against you. It doesn't matter what, you don't want to work there anyway. So if the question is until which age you can convert and become a data scientist, it probably depends on your background. In principle, sky is the limit, right? You can do whatever you want, but probably until you are 35, you can change from any field to any field. And if you are older, so all kind of financial consideration, family consideration will probably come up. But then if you want to move into data science, try to find the bridges between your current occupation and what you want to do. You can always learn the techniques, right? But for example, you work in healthcare. So if you want to be data scientist, your better options for the remaining of your career would be to stay with the healthcare and to be data science. If you work in education and you want to do the data science in education, your best bet would be again to stay in this field because you will bring huge wealth of experience because data scientists, or maybe you will be better doing data analytics. So you really need to think how to sort of leverage what you already accumulated in your first career and then sort of build your data science expertise on top of it.
Yeah, you know, we talk a lot about gender discrimination or misrepresentation, but age is a topic also in academia and tech in general. Someone just said that she started a PhD at 35. I know someone who just started a PhD and she's 54. And I think we need to break the boundaries about that as well, because the more successful examples we can have, the better it gets. And on this, I wanted also to talk about the visibility. Please give visibility about your work, about your connections, about your projects, because this is what will make you valuable on the long run. I know lots of creative, smart people, they never share anything about it, and so they are they are hidden gems. Please work on your employment sexiness. It's super important, no matter what you do. I'm going to read one last questions before we can all go and have dinner. Okay. Biggest differences I should expect in the position in the industry. How to best approach a job search in the industry having only academic background. Type of position, research engineer, machine learning engineer, and thanks for your answer. Marie, that's for you.
Yes, I think in many companies in data science, they will value a lot the academic aspects and the fact that you have an academic background, and it's not a problem to have only academic background. At least in my company, as I see it, we think that 3 years of a PhD are 3 years of experience, and it's a very valuable experience. It's someone who took time to go deep into a problem, and it's very interesting to be able to do that. What do you want to, the type of position, indeed research engineer, of course, machine learning research engineer also, but I would advise you to have a look at the job post, because the name of the positions, it doesn't mean the same for everyone, and at least for companies. So you will have more information about in the requirements and in the typical example of task you will be asked. And it depends also after about what you've done in academia. For example, in academia, you might have participated into the development of scikit-learn. So you know how to code, you know what a package means. And it means that if you are going into a job post which is near data engineering, for example, you will handle this. Putting a model into production is not a problem. And if you haven't done that, you might have other strengths which are less related to code. And then you have to be careful about if the job post requires to absolutely to be able to do to put a model in production. So in a few lines, read the job posts, and also have a look at who is recruited already. If no one has a PhD, maybe that company does not value academia. But if, well, maybe 30-50% of the team has one, then it looks like a good possibility.
So yeah, I perhaps also will add, because I moved from academia to industry, I think. So you ask what is the biggest difference between academia and industry. I think the biggest difference is that in industry you'll have a boss. In academia, the beauty of academia is that we are free. We are our own bosses. We have free time, whatever. It's in industry, you have to deal with the boss, you deal with the boss's boss, and deal with the team members. It's quite so this is kind of the biggest difference. If you want, your time quite often will be also scheduled. So second is there's this concept of informational interview. Just reach out to people in the companies who do the jobs that you might be interested, and ask them very precisely what is the job entails, because the job titles vary widely. I mean, someone who would be called data scientist will do one thing, cleaning data, and another will do data analysis. So really talk to a number of people to understand what is the jargon, what are the positions, and then understand which positions you want to apply for. And then again, given that you're a career change, you're moving from one field to another, non-trivial, to reaching out to your network and finding a job through network, it's probably better bet than applying online.
Yeah, Natalie and Marie said everything. I'm going to read one last sentence, and then we're going to stop. Okay, so it was directly to me. Give me a few moments. Okay, so a lot of people ask us how to get in touch with us. So I'm going to share again our email address. Behind the email address, paris@wimlds.org, you have the whole team. Just for people who would like to be able to host us, obviously, since the beginning of the pandemic, we do not organize any in the real life events. So everything is online. And we also made the decision to decrease the number of meetups online, because we know that everyone is fatigued of the Zoom sessions. So that's why tonight it was much more like open and dynamic in comparison to a presentation and a few questions. So if you want to get in touch with us, this email address is the best. Tonight we got questions about how to make a transition from academia or another field to machine learning and data science. So next week, we are going to compile all the references we shared with you in order for you to be updated, to get more knowledgeable about machine learning. So we will do that on Twitter and on our Slack. If you need anything regarding psychological support related to emotion management, a sexist or discriminative behavior you faced at work, the team will be very happy to help you. Marie, Natalie, do you want to add anything before we close the session?
So I think, yeah, you should follow us definitely on Twitter, on Slack, on LinkedIn, and reach out to us. We already organized, I think, 2 sessions about moving into data science, changing careers into data science. And I said, although right now we are not organizing events as often, but perhaps we can talk about organizing yet another roundtable with real people who moved into data science. Seems like this is a great, there's a lot of questions about it. And I think of all of you who want to do so, please don't hesitate to go ahead. Data science is a growing field. There's a shortage of talent. It's more diverse field than many just because there is a shortage of talent. And if you bring an expertise from a different field, at the beginning, you will be lagging behind, but then you will catch up and overcome just because your previous expertise will build on. So just don't hesitate, learn and move in.
And for people who wanted to ask a question and we might have missed it or we didn't answer to it, please feel free to reach out. We didn't do it on purpose. So if it's super important, don't be shy, we're open. And thank you everybody for your support, your presence tonight. See you soon.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Everyone.